from the Washington, D.C. area. It's the Inside Scoop, all the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Welcome to Inside Scoop Virginia. I'm Bettina Lawton, and I'm your host. And this is, as every year is in Virginia, an election year, and it's a big election year. Everybody is on the ballot this year, and we've got a sampling of some folks who are going to be running for office. We've got a senator, we've got some House of Delegate folks for you to listen to tonight and learn. So our first guest is Senator Jennifer Wexton. She represents the 33rd District in the Virginia State Senate. She was elected in 2014 in a special election. She currently serves on the Senate Transportation, General Laws and Technology, and Rehabilitation and Social Services Committees. She's active on a number of commissions and councils, including the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission, the Joint Commission on Technology and Science, and the State Executive Council for Comprehensive Services for At-Risk Youth and Families. Amazing titles.
It's a mouthful.
Senator Wexton served as an assistant Commonwealth's attorney for Loudoun County from 2001 to 2005, prosecuting felony and misdemeanor criminal and traffic cases in all of the Loudoun courts. She successfully prosecuted thousands of cases and conducted hundreds of trials, including a number of high-profile cases. She entered private practice, but she remained committed to public service, winning the Harry L. Carrico Award for her pro bono legal work. She is a native of Washington, D.C., graduating with honors from the University of Maryland in College Park and earning her law degree from the College of William and Mary. She lives in Leesburg with her husband, who is a charmer, and two sons, who are probably charmers, but I haven't met them yet. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bettina.
I'm so glad you're here. I want to first set up, because you obviously have a district that's in Loudoun. Is it just in Loudoun? What's your district?
No, my district actually includes probably about almost 3/4 Loudoun, but it also has a chunk of Fairfax County in the town of Herndon. So it runs from Herndon in the east. It has Herndon, parts of Chantilly, and runs through. It includes Dulles Airport, all of Sterling, parts of Ashburn, and goes into Leesburg.
Oh, so that's quite a long district.
It's a big one.
All right, well, you've got a real race. Mm-hmm. You got elected in a special, so this is your first big full race, although specials are pretty hard to run.
Right.
So, and you have an opponent. So what's the issues? What are the big issues? I know you've worked a lot and been interested a lot on education. Is that still a big deal?
It's a huge deal in Loudoun and Fairfax counties. I mean, my district includes a lot of young families, a lot of folks who kind of move out of the inner suburbs or out of the city to, buy a single family home or to move up. And they often have kids in public schools. So making our schools the best they can be is a huge issue in Loudoun County. One of the biggest issues that we're hearing about on the doors is full day kindergarten. Loudoun County is one of the only localities in the entire Commonwealth of Virginia that does not have full-day kindergarten.
So you have it for at-risk people. There's some small sliver, I thought, that had it, but it's not full-fledged, like Fairfax just went to full-day kindergarten.
Right, and they're starting to expand it, but really only for the at-risk kids, and there does not seem to be much desire on the part of our school board to expand it to include all kids in Loudoun County. As I said, there's actually only 3 counties or 3 localities in Virginia that don't have full-day kindergarten, but the 2 that aren't Loudoun do have plans to do so. But Loudoun, they won't even develop a plan.
Well, that's pretty shocking, actually, given that, because there are a large number of highly educated people coming out to Fairfax County or out to Loudoun County. So you would think that the school board would be interested in that.
Well, I think we need to make those desires known. I think a lot of folks that move out just assume that there's full-day kindergarten because so many other places, every place else does have it. Maryland has full-day kindergarten, West Virginia, North Carolina, all of the states around us have it, and Virginia, we're really behind, especially in Loudoun.
Now in Fairfax, the school board people are all up for election this year. Is the same out in Loudoun?
Yes, all the state Senate, House of Delegates, boards of supervisors and school boards, as well as constitutional officers, are all on the ballot this year.
Right.
It's going to be a very big ballot.
So people have the opportunity to not only express this to you, but they need to express it to the people who are running for the school board to try to make that change.
That's correct. And there are things that we can do at the state level too. But the challenges that we face are that a lot of folks down in Richmond say, well, we've managed to do it. Why can't you do it in Loudoun County? So.
Right. Well, you have some other problems with the Senate at this point, don't you? Because the Democrats don't control it anymore. So you've got both the House of Delegates and the Senate being controlled by the Republicans.
Right, but we're very close in the Senate. The Senate is a 40-member body, and we're at 19 Democrats and 21 Republicans. All we need to do is pick up one seat, and we have the tie-breaking vote, who is Ralph Northam, our Lieutenant Governor. So we're very, very close. We have some fantastic races that we think we're going to be able to go red to blue in, some here in Northern Virginia and in other parts of Virginia as well. So we feel very good about taking back the Senate. Like as I said, we only need one, but it would be good to get some more. But my focus is really on my race because, as you mentioned, I am a new senator. I had a shortened term for my first term because I was just taking over the end of Mark Herring's. So this is my first re-election. So
you've got education issues. Now transportation is the perennial problem in Northern Virginia.
Yes.
And you've got the Greenway that runs out there, which I avoid because frankly it's really expensive.
Right, you and many other people, and that's part of the problem because the Greenway tolls are so high, it's pushing traffic onto other east-west routes through Loudoun County and Fairfax County. So Route 50 suffers a lot of the burden from that, and Route 7, which really cannot handle that kind of traffic. The Greenway is the only road built in the Commonwealth under the Virginia Highway Corporation Act. It's entirely private, and it is something that has given us very big problems in Loudoun County and surrounding areas. It costs people about over $6 to travel 1 mile, over $6 to travel 15 miles. There's no distance-based tolling on it. So one of the things that we're working on down in Richmond is a plan to buy back the Greenway from its private owners. We would be able to do that by borrowing at a much better rate than the private owners did, and they're actually operating the road at a deficit because they borrowed at such a high interest rate. They are losing $17 million a year on this road, and as they've increased the tolls, the ridership has gone down. So they're not able to make up this deficit. Well, if we take it over for the state, there have been economic analyses of these performed. The $17 million deficit becomes an $8 million surplus.
Wow!
So we would be able to pay down the bonds and pay off the road entirely within a reasonable amount of time.
Well, that's pretty amazing. I didn't realize. First of all, I didn't fully understand it was totally private. I thought it was one of those public-private things. But it sounds like really they might want to actually sell if there's that much of a loss. I think that the owners would probably be interested in selling. It's again another issue we just need to bring to the attention of the folks down in Richmond that this is a very big deal and it's revenue neutral because the tolls would pay for any bonds that we incurred. Okay, and you might actually get a surplus. So in theory, people ought to be happy about that.
Right.
Do people actually, has this proposal been floated? Does it look like it's something the Republicans might agree to?
We've started discussing it. One of the delegates Randy Minshew, who shares Leesburg with me, is also working to see if he can get some support in his caucus in the House of Delegates for this proposal. It's something where, as I've learned in Richmond, sometimes it takes several years to kind of educate everybody about the issues. But as people are becoming more aware of it and they see that there's a potential to really make this work, I think it's something that hopefully we'll be able to see some forward progress on.
Well, I would certainly like to see it because I just keep hopping off to 7 when it comes time to get on the Greenway. All I know is don't.
Right.
That's sort of my instinctive
You are not alone. That's
good to know sometimes, but it doesn't help the folks on these other roads sort of deal with things. Now, you were involved with something called cyber bills. What are these cyber bills I was hearing about?
Well, I was as a former prosecutor, I think
Right.
doing the criminal justice kind of bills were a natural fit for me. And more and more crime is taking place over the internet. And more evidence is being located on computer networks and people's computer hard drives. So I carried some bills that would help go after, one would help go after child predators who would remain anonymous on the internet, to enable our law enforcement to better identify those people and go after them. And also to help modernize some of our rules of evidence in Virginia for the use in searching computer networks and computer devices.
Well, didn't we just get rules of evidence in Virginia? I recall that coming out just a year or two ago, because my practice before coming to Virginia about 10 years ago was all federal. So I was used to having the book,
Codified Rules of Evidence. Sure,
and so I was a little
exactly.
surprised when I got here and was like, what do you mean there aren't any actual rules? So.
Well, these were really to help. There was a lot of conflict among the various localities about what a search warrant could search, and whether seizing someone's computer hard drive would also enable the police to search for data on that hard drive. Well, of course it should. But we were suffering from, there were a lot of problems with some jurisdictions and magistrates and judges who would say, well, I don't see it that way. So we had to clarify that.
Wow. Okay.
So that was something that we had to deal with. I also serve on the governor's heroin and opiate task force, and that's something that is a very, very big issue in my district and really all around Virginia. We've seen a big spike in heroin and prescription drug overdoses. They are increasingly becoming fatalities. And we in the task force and in the General Assembly really wanted to take some concrete steps to combat that problem. So we had a couple good things come out of this session. Number one was the safe reporting of overdoses legislation. Now that is kind of a good Samaritan bill, and it provides a defense to charges of possession for somebody who reports an individual who's in distress or who has overdosed. Because what we found is that people were using these drugs together, and when somebody was having a medical emergency, sometimes their friends would just take off and leave them. And if that's a situation where somebody could have been saved, we want people not to be afraid of being charged with possession for saving their friends.
Exactly.
So that passed the General Assembly. We were very pleased about that. Another thing that we were able to get through was an increased access to naloxone. Naloxone is an opiate antagonist. It is a life-saving medication if it's provided in a timely fashion.
Oh, excellent. I had heard about that drug, and there was some issue about whether it could be given or not, depending on the jurisdiction. So that's good to know. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for
on your
having
maiden
me.
voyage with us, and good luck in your Senate campaign. We will wait to hear what happens. It is November 3rd. Please go out and vote. It's a low turnout year. Every vote really counts. Stay with us.
Thank you. It's the fastest 13 minutes of my life.
There's more than just books at the library.
There's more than just books at the library.
Excuse me.
There's more than just books at the library.
Il y a plus que de livres à la bibliothèque.
Hello. You have a lot of great books here today. You know there's more than just books at the library.
I know.
There's more than just books at the library.
I don't want to be hooked to a machine.
I want all the medical treatment available to me.
I wouldn't want my family to have to make this decision.
My doctor knows what's best for me.
An advance directive is your life on your terms. Talk with your family. Decide what's right for you. Then put it in writing.
Documenting my wishes today means my family won't have to make heart-wrenching decisions later.
To learn more, visit www.putitinwriting.org.
1,200 American youth run away from their homes every day. The National Runaway Switchboard is here to help. 1-800-RUNAWAY. If you are a runaway, thinking about running away from home, or a parent or guardian concerned about issues facing your child, call us 24 hours a day. 1-800-RUNAWAY. In times of crisis, hope is just a phone call away. 1-800.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back. I'm Bettina Lawton. This is Inside Scoop, and we're talking about this year's elections. And we are now going to be switching over solely to Fairfax County, and we're talking with Delegate Mark Sickles. He represents the 43rd District in the Virginia House of Delegates. He has served for 12 years. He serves on the Appropriations Committee, which is a very big deal, the Health, Welfare and Institutions and Privileges and Elections Committee. Mark serves on numerous boards and commissions involving science, the environment, and the military. He's a graduate of Clemson University in South Carolina with a BS in Forest Management, which I found interesting for someone who came from Northern Virginia. 2 master's degrees from Georgia Institute of Technology, one in Industrial Management and the other in Technology and Science Policy. Mark works in government relations and has been a longtime resident of Fairfax County, having been raised in Annandale and now residing in Huntington. So welcome back. I'm glad to have you.
Good to be here.
Excellent. Well, so
too long.
You're on appropriations. This is a big deal for somebody.
That was a surprise that happened in January, and I'm in my 7th month of it now. It's very interesting. It helps you understand how government works better than anything else I have been in and anything I participated in until this time. It's really we open the hood and get into how these programs work on the committee.
And so appropriations is just about spending the money. Is that the idea? Or you actually do some kind of, is it well spent?
Oh, we do a lot of oversight. And I think with the chairman, Chris Jones, who is the new chairman after Lacey Putney didn't run again, retired after 52 years. Chris is an aggressive person and likes to know what the programs do, how they're working, if it's efficient. And Republican or Democrat alike, we got to make sure we're not wasting any money because our dollars are scarce. We're a relatively low tax state that probably is not going to change. And we need to be careful in how we spend our money.
Well, one of the issues that I know has been a big priority for you, actually ever since you got involved in the political world in the House of Delegates, is education. And there seems to be not enough money for that. I mean, what are we doing with education in the state? Yeah,
that's a really good question. We have had to cut it back because the state cannot borrow money like the federal government. So when we go through revenue downturns that are, we have a cyclical economy, we have to cut things. And unfortunately, education is the biggest part of the budget. So we are giving localities less than we used to. We got to turn that around. I'm hoping that when we look at how we spend K through 12 money, that we will look outside the formula, because the so-called LCI, Local Composite Index, is designed so that rich counties like Fairfax County, and I use that word in quotes because we have 50,000 students that qualify for free and reduced lunch here, but the way the index works, we only get about 20 to 23% of our school budget from the state. So hopefully if we could beef up or have money to put into K through 12, which is a priority, we can do it outside the outside the LCI, and through a formula that might recognize the poverty status of each school system.
How is that coming along? Because I remember a number of years ago, something happened with the LCI and Fairfax ended up getting more money.
Yes.
I think that was the real estate downturn or something happened, right?
When you have really bad news, we'll get a little bit more money from the state. That is ironic. We are going to have a new 2-year budget coming up, and we always hope that there'll be full re-benchmarking. That means that the state's costs are updated for inflation and the various factors that are associated with the standards of quality. And we are nervous about what it might mean next year because it's a lagging formula. And so our real estate values. Last time we re-benchmarked, we were worried that we'd get less money, and actually the LCI remained lower, and so we did not get a cut. This time we may get less money from the state. Also, you know, our school system now, with its well-documented problems and, you know, the built-in tension that we have with the Board of Supervisors and the school board, I think we've got to reach a point where everybody comes together and says we really need to invest in our system. And I think we need to have a 6 or 7 or 8 month long discussion as a community here in Fairfax on how we're going to invest in our schools.
Well, how much money do we, or how radically do you think we could actually get a different formula involved? Because if we're getting more, that means some of these other counties are getting less. And my understanding, and you would know, but my understanding has always been that some of these counties in the other parts of the state basically get all their money from the state.
It goes from 85% coming from the state to 20%, like in Loudoun County or Arlington County, where the maximum 0.8 in the LCI is met. So that's why I want to go outside the formula, because I don't want to hurt anybody, and I think it's a fair way to distribute any new revenue that we might have based on the number of kids we have that qualify for free and reduced lunch.
Okay, well, that's certainly, because that is sort of hidden in Fairfax County. People are very surprised when they realize how many of our kids, and in certain schools, the percentage of the kids in those schools are getting the free
lunches. And I come from a part of the county where there are more Title I schools than in other parts, so we're real sensitive to it. I'm real proud of our schools. I think they're doing a great job. I go to high school graduations every year and get so inspired by the kids that come from all over the world and do so well, and are headed out to Ivy League schools and University of Virginia, and it's really great. William and Mary.
Yeah, it is good. Now, what about, I do want to mention you got endorsed by the Virginia Education Association, so they must think you're doing something right.
Well, I work hard with them. We try to do the best we can.
So what about pre-K? Because you were talking about K through 12. Pre-K was a whole big deal at one point. Is that?
I had a bill on pre-K last year that actually got out of the Education Committee, but did not make it out of appropriations, unfortunately. Our Virginia Preschool Initiative has been something that was developed in our budget. It's not in the Virginia Code, and we have been adjusting the criteria for it. It's only intended for the 25% of our 4-year-old populations that are poor, are at-risk children. Unfortunately, many of our jurisdictions have turned money back because even though it's 50-50 money rather than 75-25, the school board has had other priorities and they like pre-K, but they have to pay for the other school systems. So I wanted to make sure the money was more attractive to the localities. And we're going to be working on that. This is an area where the teachers agree that we don't have to do this 4-year-old program in a school setting. We can use our nonprofit community to do it. Down in my area, the Bell Early Learning Center, which is part of United Community Ministries, they have VPI slots there that are educating 4-year-olds. So it is.
And VPI is what?
Virginia Preschool Initiative.
Okay.
VPI,
I want to make sure we had it right.
Yeah.
Okay. So they have slots available for them?
They have slots available. Alexandria City, in their city schools, all their 4-year-olds that are in the program are handled through the school system, but the money out into the nonprofit community.
That's excellent. That's a great idea. Well, let me ask you about elections. You've been on privileges in elections for a long time. A long time. And Virginia has had some issues with elections. So is any of this going to be better either this year or 16? I mean, the last time we did presidentials, the last couple of presidentials were a little rough.
You know, the P&E committee is a pretty partisan committee because we Democrats try to do things that make it easier to vote.
Right.
And the other side doesn't want to do that at all. I mean, they're pretty clear about it. They think that everyone should, if you really want to vote, you should go on election day, and that's it. It's going to be on a Tuesday, and it's going to end at 7 o'clock. So all of our members have had various bills to open it up, from allowing anyone over 65 to vote absentee in person without an excuse. We do have about 19 excuses in the law that you can vote early, and one of them is pretty. If you leave your jurisdiction for 11 hours a day, or if you go out of your jurisdiction to work, you're qualified to vote early. Well, it's not really technically voting early. So we don't have early voting, but we do have absentee in-person voting if you meet one of the 19 excuses. We should probably get rid of all that, just let anybody vote early in a certain period. One thing that is a bipartisan initiative is that we have gone away from the electronic voting machines. We studied that, we had experts in voting process. We couldn't really do a recount. In Virginia, we've had so many close elections that we're a recount state for sure. Every 4 years we've got one. And you can't really do a good one if it's just an electronic machine.
It's like looking at the grocery tape.
That's right. And they've tested the machines and found out they could be hacked into too, which was our worst fear. So now we're at Fairfax, and the rest of the state is moving this way to 100% Scantron technology. And it should help with the lines as well, because when you're reading a constitutional amendment or a bond referendum or something, you can spend all the time you want right at your desk and fill in that oval as slowly as you want, and your thing goes to the machine in an instant. And so we've gone that way 100% in Fairfax now, and this will be the first presidential election next year where we have that in every precinct. You know, a couple years ago in 12, voters should come in and choose whether they wanted to vote electronic or paper. And most people didn't want to vote paper. They think it was old-fashioned, but actually it's a better technology, and when we do have trouble, we can actually count the votes when it's over. So.
And one of the bills that I saw, and I think got passed, required that people have more than just one.
One. That's
Scantron.
right. That was my bill, actually.
Okay.
Once you get over 4,000 registered voters, you have to have a second machine in a presidential year. That was my bill this year.
Excellent. Okay. Good. Somebody's phone is going off, and everybody can hear it, but it will stop sooner or later, so don't worry about it. So good. Well, that was one of the things, and then so we really haven't made any marvelous progress on this absentee, pretty much with the exceptions that we have, or the qualifications that we have. Anybody in Fairfax, pretty much, because so many people live work out of the county, or they're, travel. If you're working in DC, you're kind of like guaranteed to be gone given the state of transportation.
Yeah, I think we've had over 30% of people vote early in presidential elections. That's been our recent history. I think the allegation that it would lead to fraud is exactly the opposite, because if you vote early, there's even more chance for someone to, verify or do an audit of who's voted to find out if anybody is impersonating somebody else to vote. We've had this big, allegation that people are going in under other people's IDs and voting, and there's been no scientific or survey evidence of that. But that's why we've made a lot of policy. Taking a lot of policy positions based on that.
Right. And as you say, it's not actually been proved. And
No.
I always sort of thought it's a felony. And
it's
so
a felony.
That alone is
You have
enormous.
to sign it. It says it's a felony if I'm lying on this form.
Exactly. And that should be enough of a dissuasion for people. Well, Mark, I want to thank you for coming in. Good luck on your election.
Well,
I know it's contested.
Much.
And,
yes, I have 2 opponents.
2 opponents? Thanks so much.
Well, thank you.
This year, 28,000 Americans will be diagnosed with oral cancer. Every year, 7,000 Americans die of oral cancer.
I'm Eva Cohen, and I'm an oral cancer survivor. I didn't fit the profile. I didn't smoke or drink. I had no family history of cancer, no family history of cancer. I was 31 years old. 31 years old. I went to see my dentist about a sore in my mouth that wouldn't heal. It was oral cancer. I had to have a radical neck dissection and a portion of my tongue reconstructed. I didn't know if I was going to live or die.
I'm Surgeon General Richard Carmona. The survival rate for oral cancer is only 50%. Oral cancer can happen to anyone. If you have a sore or lesion in your mouth that doesn't heal within 2 weeks, see your dentist. Early detection is the key.
Early detection saves lives. I know.
1 in 8 Americans goes hungry. One idea helped change that. A community started a garden that blossomed into farmers markets. 1 in 6 children lives in poverty. One group of women found an answer by opening a daycare center that their neighbors could afford. Today, 36 million Americans live in poverty, but one by one, people are helping themselves and each other to change the picture of poverty to one of hope. For easy ways you can help, visit povertyusa.org.
Two words for you. Pop quiz. Ready? Name any funny movie. A drama. Name a mystery. And one more thing. Name the movie your kids saw today in science class.
Know what really matters. Know about your kid's school. And know about your kid. Find out 100 ways to know more, do more.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back. This is Inside Scoop Virginia. I'm Bettina Lawton. I'm your host, and we are continuing with our delegates. And we have with us now Liz Miller. She is running for the House of Delegates in the 32nd District. Liz is known throughout Loudoun County political circles for her persistence and love of canvassing, having knocked on over 45,000 doors for candidates since 2003, including 12,000 doors in her campaign in 2013. She came within 651 votes of defeating an incumbent, which is an awesome thing to happen. It's very tough to defeat incumbents in this area. Liz attended George Mason University, where she degreed in psychology. She's active in several organizations, including the board of NARAL Pro-Choice Virginia Foundation. She spent several years on the Loudoun Community Services Board, overseeing the Department of Mental Health, Substance Abuse Services, and Developmental Services. She volunteers at the local abused women's shelter. Liz and her husband, Stevens, who is a former elected supervisor in Loudoun County, have lived in the Broadlands for over 15 years, and together they run a litigation support business. Their son, Forden, is 13, and he attends Loudoun Public Schools. So welcome, Liz. I'm glad to have you.
Thank you so much for having me here. This is awesome.
Well, I'm so glad that you could make it. So first, broad scope here. What are the top types of priorities for your district?
Well, what I'm hearing at the doors every day is that people want full-day kindergarten, universal full-day kindergarten. We are the only county that does not have it, one of 3 jurisdictions that does not have universal full-day kindergarten, and the only one that doesn't even have a plan to get it.
So is this a cost issue? I mean, why does the school board say they don't do this?
It's partly cost and it's partly space, but quite frankly, we're sending our income tax money down to Richmond every year, and state money pays for it in other jurisdictions. Not every other jurisdiction, but a lot of other jurisdictions. So my thought is that we need to actually get some of that tax money back to us so that we can afford to expand some buildings or put in temporary buildings to expand kindergarten quickly. We have it's an economic equity issue. We have so many people in our county who are right on the edge of the middle class.
Really? Because people think Loudoun is just wealthy.
Well, we have a lot of very wealthy people. We do. Okay. But we also have a lot of people who are not so wealthy, and particularly with the shutdown and the sequestration and all that sort of stuff, their incomes have not been keeping up.
Right.
So we have very wealthy people, or even moderately wealthy people, sending their kids to private kindergarten, private full-day kindergarten. We have kids who are at risk, people who are on the poverty level or who are English language learners. They're allowed to go to full-day kindergarten at Loudoun Public Schools, but there's a long waiting list for that as well.
Right.
And all of the folks in the middle are stuck with half-day, and that's not okay. Public school is supposed to be that everybody gets the same chance for the same education. It's not supposed to be the wealthy get something, the poor get something, and folks in the middle don't get it.
Well, that was always when my children, who are out of the Fairfax school system now, but while they were in it, that was one of my pet peeves. It was sort of like whether it was wealth or whether you were really smart, you got something. And if you were poor or you were, learning disabled in some fashion, you got a whole lot of attention. And the kids in the middle were just sort of left to fend for themselves. And it's not appropriate. As you say, it's an inequality issue.
It is really an inequality issue. And the whole state education system is based on the idea, because so many other jurisdictions have it, that kids in kindergarten are getting 6 hours of instruction a day. Well, in Lawton County, they're getting 3 hours of instruction a day. And they're supposed to be getting that full curriculum, but it's forced into a 3-hour period. And one of the things that kindergarten teachers are telling me all the time is that they know they have kids in their classes who have learning disabilities. They know they have kids in their classes who need extra help. But because they've got 25 kids in the morning and a different 25 kids in the afternoon, they aren't able to really pinpoint what the problem is. And so kids are falling through the cracks in kindergarten where they're actually supposed to be caught. The safety net in kindergarten is supposed to catch them, and they're not being caught there. So then first grade teachers have told me that they can tell immediately which kids had half day and which kids had full day. And I'm very fortunate. My mom and my dad helped us pay for full day kindergarten at a private kindergarten. And then my son went to public school from first grade on. But it was really important to me to have him have that experience. But I realize that not everybody does have that experience. Right. And we need to make sure that every kid has it. We keep on talking about no child left behind, right, which I think, has had middling success.
Right.
But part of that ideal was that all the children should be getting the same standards of education, and we're not getting that.
No, and the difficulty is, as I understand it, it compounds itself. So if you're behind in kindergarten, you're behind in first grade, you're going to be behind in third grade. Yes. It becomes very difficult to catch up.
They've been able to prove, through various studies, that kids who have full-day kindergarten, that value actually follows them all the way through high school. Yeah. And we can't afford in Lawton County to let our kids fall behind on this. We're supposed to be one of the wealthiest counties in the country. How can we provide a world-class education without giving what every other county, or almost every other county in Virginia, has?
Right. I had not realized that that was a big issue out there.
Oh, huge. That and the prices on the Greenway and traffic are the biggest issues.
Well, do you hear a lot, because you're out in the area where the subway's coming your way, in theory?
Yes. It will actually, the last stop will be in my district.
Okay.
Which is very exciting. I live 2 miles from where it will be coming. I grew up in Brooklyn and didn't learn how to drive until I was 27.
Oh my gosh.
And so having mass transit within 2 miles of my house is a dream come true. I am so excited.
So are people excited? Because I recall when it came to funding, when they were having the conversations about funding, and Lawton was involved, and the Board of Supervisors in Fairfax was involved, and there was this whole thing about Lawton might not fund it, maybe they didn't want it. I mean, what are you hearing at the doors? What do people
want
say?
It. People really do want it. They are sick of sitting in traffic. We have several commuter buses that are packed to the gills every day. We need to have more of those. But what people are really looking forward to is being able to get to the metro, just hop on it and go, and not have to think about, am I going to get home on time? Am I going to get to work on time? I used to actually I used to work in Merrifield, and right nearby here, and it could take me anywhere from 35 minutes to an hour and 35 minutes to get to work in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
And same thing going back home. And you couldn't ever tell which one it was going to be.
That's right.
So if you have kids in daycare, and daycare, starts at 6 o'clock in the morning or 6:30, depending on where you're going, and pickup time is at 6 o'clock. You have got to pick up your kid by 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
So your entire day is planned out of, okay, can I drop my kid off at the time that they need to be there and get to work in time that I can leave work in time to go and pick them up?
Right. With that huge fluctuation in potential travel time just sort of looming.
Right.
As to what's going to happen.
And the Metro, even if people don't ride the Metro all that, even the people who don't ride the Metro will be benefiting because of all the people who will be riding the Metro.
Right. They'll be off the roads.
They're going to be off the roads. And you can actually see it now. There's huge traffic jams going up to Wheelie Avenue, but then it eases off quite a bit.
Right.
And I know a lot of people who take the bus to Wheelie and get on and take the Metro in and love it because they actually have a schedule to their day.
Yeah.
They know that they can plan for it. And even those times when Metro is delayed, it's never as delayed as
the roads
would be.
Well, and you do have that issue of the tolls, which I just find so offensive.
Oh God, I'm sorry, I shouldn't blaspheme, but the Greenway, a lot of people call it the Greedway, out where I am, is absolutely heinous. Yeah. It's $6.30 on, or actually $6.20 each way during prime time, and people are absolutely appalled, particularly in Ashburn because we're only one or two
So you don't
exits.
get to go very far.
2, 3, 4 exits down the road. It's and it's terrible. And people only take it when they're in a huge rush. But otherwise they avoid it. And so we have Wax Pool, which is completely jammed, and it could take 45 minutes. To just get from the corner of Claiborne Parkway and to 28.
Yep.
I don't know how much you drive around there, but it's just it's really a hard thing because that's most of people's commute. And then they can get on the toll road and generally zoom in. It's privately owned. So all of that money is not going into the state coffers to help maintain our roads.
Right.
It's all going actually out to Australia.
Okay.
The company that owns it, Trip 2, is in Australia. It's a foreign-owned company, and our tolls are going there. Wow. I would really love to buy back the toll road. The Greenway. I would really like to buy back the Greenway, put in distance pricing. I think that we can do it and actually run a surplus.
Well, that seems to be the key thing. If you can run a surplus, it's a lot easier to get folks down in Richmond to agree to be doing something like that.
And I think we can cut even the maximum toll from 28 to Leesburg. I think we can cut that down.
Well, I've got to assume people are going to love that. So I want to thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Traffic and appearing tonight. And good luck on your campaign. I wish you the best.
Thank you so much.
And
this was awesome.
We will see you again after the election.
Thanks.
I need a job.
Necesito trabajo.
I would like to speak English better.
Me gustaría hablar inglés mejor.
I want to be a U.S. citizen.
Quisiera ser ciudadano de los Estados Unidos.
For over 35 years,
Por más de 35 años,
the Hispanic Committee of Virginia has been serving our community.
el Comité Hispano de Virginia ha estado sirviendo a nuestra comunidad.
Job training and placement,
Capacitación, ayuda para conseguir trabajo,
education for children and adults,
educación para niños y adultos,
immigration, naturalization, and medical referrals.
ayuda para los procesos de inmigración y naturalización y orientación sobre médicos
Are a small part of what we do.
son solo una pequeña parte de lo que hacemos.
For help, information, or to volunteer,
Para ayuda, información
o para ofrecerse como voluntario,
contact the Hispanic Committee of Virginia,
comuníquese con el Comité Hispano de Virginia,
helping everyone participate more fully in American society.
ayudando a todos a participar plenamente en la sociedad norteamericana.
Hey, Lena, where's yours?
Would you notice if you were missing half your kidney function? According to the National Kidney Foundation, 20 million people have chronic kidney disease, and 20 million more may be at risk and not even know it. Anyone with high blood pressure, diabetes, or family history of chronic kidney disease is at risk. Early diagnosis is vitally important. To get the whole story, talk to your doctor and visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org or call for a free brochure. Because when it comes to chronic kidney disease, you might not know the half.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back. This is Inside Scoop Virginia. I'm Bettina Lawton, and I'm your host. And we have another delegate candidate for you to meet tonight. It is Delegate Kathleen Murphy. She represents the 34th District in the House of Delegates, where she serves on the House Finance Committee and Privileges and Elections Committee. She won a special election in January of this year with 51.23% of the vote. She is facing a rematch on November 3rd. Kathleen is president of Johnson Murphy and Associates, a consulting firm based in McLean that provides strategic counseling and builds legislative strategies for companies and nonprofit organizations. Previously, she worked as a senior advisor for the international trade issues at the Department of Commerce and handled congressional affairs at USAID during the Clinton administration. Kathleen helped found Salute Our Services, which helps connect service members deployed overseas to their families, and Kids Serve Too, which is an organization to honor and support children in military families. They are often forgotten. Kathleen has played a critical role in Women's Campaign International, and that's an organization dedicated to teaching women in developing countries how to become political leaders. She now serves on their advisory board. She was a founding member of the Congressional Wives Task Force, which was an advocacy group that focused on nutrition labeling and violence in children's television. She is a member of the McLean Community Foundation, the Fairfax County Healthcare Task Force, and serves on the fundraising board for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. She is a busy, busy woman. She is a graduate of American University and a longtime resident of McLean. So I want to thank you for coming, Kathleen. I know this has been an exciting year. You got elected just at the beginning of the year. How was it to be a freshman walking in there after a special election? It was like all of a sudden you're there.
Oh, it's a dream come true. I mean, you stand up there and you raise your hand and you swear to uphold the Constitution, and all of a sudden you're standing there thinking, this is the very same body where Thomas Jefferson served and Patrick Henry served and James Madison and James Monroe and this entire list of people, and you think, now I'm becoming a small part of the history of this country, of Virginia, and it's overwhelming.
That's excellent. It is sort of, you go in there and you look around and you're like, wow, look at this. It's an amazing place.
It is. I had to pinch myself. This is true.
I did hear you did a fabulous job. I heard that from several people.
So. Well, I appreciate hearing that.
Very well prepared, which I guess some people in the House of Delegates are not, but I heard that you were. Now, I want to talk to you. I saw recently, the Nova Biz PAC, which is the Fairfax Chamber of Commerce, their political organization. They endorsed you. Did they endorse you the last time?
No, they didn't. They didn't. They endorsed my opponent. However, I told them when we met that I would be accessible and I would be easy to work with, and if we were going to disagree, then I would let them know and I would tell them why. And in fact, they found me very easy to work with. We had a lot of places where we agreed on what support should be provided for what issues, and they liked the way I worked with them, and so they endorsed me this time. I was really, really pleased.
Well, that has to be good, because typically you think Fairfax Chamber, you don't think Democratic endorsements.
No, you certainly don't.
So that's congratulations on that. When I saw that, I did wonder. I thought, gee,
well, I'm business friendly.
Business friendly, excellent. Well, let's talk about that, because Northern Virginia's economy, and I guess the economy in other parts of the state, have suffered because of sequestration and budget cuts and all these other kinds of things. And I know that quality jobs is one of the things that you talk about. So what kind of jobs do you think need to come to Northern Virginia? I mean, we see Terry McAuliffe is bringing, I don't know, chicken farms or something down to the mansion, but he's doing, I saw that for his kids. He's not really turning it into it. Just a few chickens for his kids. But he brings these sort of manufacturing type jobs to other parts of the state. But in your district, you couldn't plop a manufacturing facility in the middle. What kind of jobs do you think are here?
We can manufacture cybersecurity. How about that?
Ah, okay.
In Northern Virginia, and especially in my area, we have a workforce that is fully prepared to take on the role for cybersecurity. They have the education for it, they have the history for it. And what we have done is start looking at ways to entice companies to come to this area where the workforce is so well matched with the qualifications and really the resources needed. Terry McAuliffe, our wonderful governor, has started a cybersecurity commission. We met with them this past week to talk about what they're coming up with, what their recommendations will be. What he explained was that in the Pentagon, for instance, there are almost 6 million hits a day on their computers. Wow. And so this is a growing area of new jobs. We have to develop it, we have to promote it, and we have to make it a business-friendly atmosphere so that they'll come here to grow their companies. The same thing that you see there, you see in private businesses. So it isn't going to be confined only to government work. I mean, this is very broad.
So that would help in terms of protecting it against any kind of federal government problems and shutdown, if it's applicable to private industry as well.
Well, yeah, that's true. But if you look, I mean, we had OPM hacked. Right. I mean, this is very widespread, and we really have to concentrate on it. The other good thing that we're focused on is expanding the roles of community colleges. If you recall, in the last campaign, McAuliffe was talking a lot about how he had visited all 23 community colleges. Well, we passed a bill this year that I was one of the co-patrons of to allow retiring vets to get credit at community colleges for the work and the skills that they developed in the military, and we think this is a really good step forward for them. But it also means that they can start looking into getting jobs in the cybersecurity industry, because there'll be lots of really well-paying jobs, kind of that middle-of-the-road well-paying job that is going to be really important to the cybersecurity community. You don't have to have everyone have PhDs to work in cybersecurity.
That's true. I do recall that bill coming through about the military veterans getting credit, and I remember when my son came back from Iraq, and he had been a combat medic for years, but yet couldn't get that credit. It wasn't available at the time, and I always thought, what a waste.
It is. It was. Maybe we can cure that.
Well, it is, and I think it will also help with the transition of the military people into civilian life.
Right.
Even if they don't want to stay in whatever it is they did, so many of them seem to come out, and because nothing was transferring, they sort of get lost and end up in jobs that are not really up to what their skill levels are. So this should be terrific.
And there hasn't been recognition for what their skill levels are.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do, is get more recognition for what they've already learned, and get them on the road to getting real credit for that, so that they don't have to spend extra years in college. And I think on the other hand too, a lot of kids are never really meant for four-year college, and some of the industries that are growing up the fastest are in fact telling us that they aren't industries that are going to need a four-year degree. So there's a lot to be learned, there's a lot to explore, and in Northern Virginia we're doing it. Inova Fairfax Hospital has created this planned research complex that's growing up.
Is that what they're going to put where ExxonMobil used to be?
Where it used to be.
Oh, I didn't realize it was
that's going
research.
to offer a whole lot of opportunities for people in Northern Virginia, and it will create jobs, and it will be a wonderful addition to to our economy.
So in addition to the cybersecurity, we have the opportunity to try and get into the healthcare research, because Maryland is known for that pretty well.
Well, I just think everyone in Maryland should come to Virginia. We're very friendly.
Well, that is true. I've always thought that about people in Maryland, so absolutely. Well, that is excellent. So when you get reelected,
yes.
So what do you want to accomplish in your second term? What are the outstanding things that you look at and say, boy, I want to be able to do that? And I know that you're at a disadvantage because the House of Delegates is so firmly Republican. Right, it's so firmly Republican.
We're hoping with this election we're going to change that just a little bit.
Because there are some amazing candidates out there.
There's some really good candidates. There are several empty seats where people have retired, and we're looking to pick those seats up, including John Bell running for Ramadan's seat, Jennifer
was a
Boysko.
Surprise when Ramadan said he wasn't running again.
I think it was a shock. I think everybody was shocked.
Oh yeah, I was.
But he has some business issues that he needs to tend to, and that was the direction he chose to go. Tom Russ decided to retire. I know Jennifer Boysko will make a superstar as a new delegate. So I think we've got some good prospects for open seats. A guy named Josh King down running for Michael Futrell's old seat.
He's a sheriff's deputy.
Yes.
Out of Fairfax.
So what do you think of that? We have a sheriff's deputy. Maybe he could keep peace on the floor of the House of Delegates.
Well, he's a sheriff's deputy. I'm not sure he's a miracle worker. So we'll have to see. Yeah. We'll have to see. Well, that sounds good. But what do you want to get done? I mean,
I obviously I think we need to focus more on schools and persuading them in Lawton, the supervisors in particular, to have the political will to put the money forward for all-day kindergarten is a huge issue. And they don't have the political will, and voters need to push them so that they will have.
Well, you've
Either
raised
that or they need to elect new supervisors.
Or new ones. So, which raises the interesting point that we didn't make at the beginning, because I always think of you as a Fairfax delegate, but you actually go into Lawton.
I have 7 precincts in Lawton.
Okay, so you've got both. You've
I
got to
do.
stay up to date on both sets of county issues then.
Yes, I'm multi-districted.
Excellent, excellent. Well, that is, the education issues in Lawton certainly seem to be a challenge.
When I knock doors, I can tell you that people often will complain about the schools. And I know that it surprises people, but truthfully it is something I hear day to day when I'm knocking doors in Lawton, is that they're very unhappy with the situation with schools, with people proposing that they have to pay for buses and have to pay for all-day kindergarten.
Oh wow.
Come on.
That's amazing. I didn't know about that.
No, it is.
Everybody needs to move to Fairfax. Well, I want to thank you for coming.
That would be my vote.
Exactly. Well, I want to thank you for coming, and good luck in November 3rd. As I said before, it is a low turnout election. Every vote counts. Please come out and vote.